Before we begin, 3 messages. Here's a riddle. How do you build native cross-platform mobile applications quickly without having to rewrite code and hire consultants at a huge cost? Titanium from Appcelerator. Called the easy button for mobile application development, it allows you to focus more on what's important, getting product out the door. Join the more than 1.5 million active developers who have created over 13,000 apps at www.appcelerator.com. So, you've taken some of the advice that has come from Untethered.tv guests, built an app, and now you're turning your attention to generating some hard-earned revenue. Then you should be looking at Pontiflex App Leads. Some of your peers who are using App Leads are earning CPMs 100 times the industry average. And if you need any other reasons to start, I'll give you 2 more. You can run sign-up ads from top brands, the ones that you recognize, and it won't take your precious users out of your app. Go to appleads.com, that's appleads.com, to sign up. When my company needed to develop a key mobile product, one that I was counting on as a new source of revenue, I knew exactly who to turn to. Macadamian. They delivered on time with incredible attention to detail, and I was able to get product into customers' hands faster than I ever thought possible. I've personally known them for 10 years, and they do make great products even better. Check them out at www.macadamian.com. Hello everybody, welcome to Untethered.tv. I'm your host, Rob Woodbridge. This is where we have casual conversations with mobile rock stars, where we dive deep down into the bowels of what it takes to run a mobile company. And after we speak with my guest today, you'll understand it's kind of intestinal fortitude, determination, and endurance. And we're going to get into that right now. We got a guest on from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We're actually here to talk with Andrew Osis, who is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Poynt. And Poynt is this is a company that's been around since 2002, which in dog years in this industry, in the mobile space, especially in what they do, is like 7,000 years old because of the pace of evolution and innovation that's happened. But, simply, Poynt kind of puts together search and find, and it provides value based on location. It's kind of an early mobile search and find platform for checking into locations and finding out what's around. We're going to dive into it a little bit about it. Great relationships, and it does everything from finds to businesses, retailers, restaurants, movies, events, weather, gas, people, you name it. It's at your fingertips with this technology. And it's available in 8 countries, including Canada, the United States, and United Kingdom, Italy, France. So I'm going to miss somebody like Germany, Spain, Australia. So it's a worldwide and all-encompassing tool. And it's built here in Canada. And it's been around since 2002. And unique about this company is that it started on the very first smartphone that was available at the time, which was Blackberry. So we're going to dive into this. Andrew, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story on Untethered.tv. Really appreciate it.
Sounds good.
All right, I've done too much talking already. 2 minutes in. First off, Calgary, Canadian hotbed of mobile activity.
Absolutely.
Lots going on there?
Yeah, well, thing that people don't know about Calgary and Alberta is with the oil and gas business, mobile technology has been super, super important here. And some of the first geomatics mapping technology was developed here. So there's a tremendous skill set in mobile, in mapping, and data technology that largely goes unnoticed just because it's embedded in the oil and gas business. One of the very first mobile networks in the world was right here in Alberta with TELUS. So it's kind of an unknown fact.
Hotbed of activity. So not only are you mining the ground, you're mining the air ultimately,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to.
You bet.
Well, let's talk about Poynt here. I mean, my first question is always going to be about how does an investment banker get into the mobile space? Were you like an investor and then you liked the company so much you bought it like the Remington guy?
Well, not quite. Sort of a funny happenstance. A client of mine, while I was an investment banker, fellow who worked at TELUS in their marketing department, and co-founder of Poynt, John Lowe. He kind of came up with the kernel of the idea of putting local search information into a phone and coupling that with a GPS. And back in 2001, that was essentially a crazy idea.
Sure.
Mapping wasn't really capable for phones. GPS didn't really exist in that fashion in phones. The networks certainly weren't fast enough, and the devices were just this side of a rudimentary calculator. It was a very, very early time frame to be thinking about this, but we started looking forward and saying, okay, pace of development and what phones were trying to achieve, you could see a time in the not too distant future when that really could work. And so we started work on the idea in 2002 in a real earnest way. Myself and John and one other fellow founded the company and started working on the idea really over the next sort of 3 years.
So, I mean, what did it look like back then? Because I'm trying to think back to 2002. I was in the mobile industry, but I remember like the Blackberry 7100 was the first GPS-enabled device back then, and I mean, a clunker. But that didn't come out for a couple of years after. I mean...
Well, yeah, we started down the path of looking at ways to, instead of using, because you didn't have keyboards,
right?
You just had the double, triple tap to get to your letters, and so putting in a query that way just didn't work. So we were looking at voice engines to do voice queries and send back SMS with the data that you were looking for.
Right.
They were very, very rudimentary designs. And then, as you kind of moved along, you could see that instant messenger clients were getting preloaded on these devices. Windows Live, Yahoo, AOL. And so we kind of looked at, could we utilize that as a means to get into the mobile space? And kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole and developed local search for instant messenger and deployed that on the Windows Live network, on AOL, and had created the right back-end data handling, but the front end people just couldn't kind of embrace. So fast forward kind of to 2007, you get to devices that then were becoming capable. You really had the Blackberry now with the phone capability coming out. You had networks that were fast enough on data speeds that you could transport information back and forth. And so we started to see the formation of the mobile device as a mobile computing capable and data capable device. And lo and behold, that's when we really started development on that.
For those people who are too young to remember this, who are listening or watching, is that the Blackberry used to not have a phone. I remember that it was like it started off as a pager, two-way pager ultimately, and then the blue Blackberry, I don't remember what that one was the first one that you stuck in a headphone jack, and it was the first phone. Yeah. I remember those days. I mean, that was pioneering time.
Oh yeah, it was revolutionary to put a PDA and a phone together effectively, right?
Yep.
So it really made the mobile office capable.
So it meant that that you could golf while working.
Well, notionally anyway.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you took out that scent from my Blackberry thing at the bottom. Talk about that time. So 2007 was obviously that cataclysmic time, right? The iPhone came out. The Blackberry was the dominant platform at the time. So, but you guys looked at this in 2000, and what were you thinking? Like, was it? Did you ever think that it would evolve to this point, or were you just speculating back then?
I guess the honest answer is I'm not sure what the heck we were thinking.
That's good.
We basically spent the time frame from 02 to 08, fumbling our way around in the dark, in hindsight, right? we thought, at the time we thought we knew exactly where we were going, and it was just around the corner. And when you look back, it's like, holy crap, we were dumb. Because, and I'm not sure if it's tenacity or if it was sheer stupidity, or maybe it was both, but we just had a real clear view of what the idea needed to be, that getting local search information on your mobile device was absolutely something that people would want, and we just had to keep working at finding the right way to do it, and that was really the only thought that was in anybody's heads.
It's so obvious that this is going to get there.
Yeah.
We just got to keep going.
It was completely obvious to us. Sometimes when we'd say it to people, they'd say, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but
I'll never use it.
I'll never use that, or I don't know how I'd use that, or I can't imagine using my Samsung clamshell phone to do that, because the thing barely works as a phone, right?" So, it was sometimes hard to convince people of the merits until June of '08, when we finally put it in people's hands, and we literally emailed it to 100 people we knew with Blackberries. After spending 8 or 9 years in the investment business, a couple of people with Blackberries, and so I emailed it off to essentially 100 friends, and we asked them to be kind and take a look at it and use it. Tell us if they liked it. Tell us if they didn't like it. And if they liked it, you could use on the front page of the app, there was and still is today, send Poynt to a friend. And we saw that next day after that email, 10 new users, and 10 new users after that. And to quote that shampoo commercial, and they told 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on, and now we're roughly 8.1 million users today. So
you see, that's the staggering. It's a staggering number, isn't it? Like when you start to think about the impact that you guys have had. Over 20 million local searches monthly. Is that still the number, or is it higher than that?
Oh no, we've grown to almost 70 million per month now.
70 million local searches per month, and with how many users did you say?
8 million, 8.1 roughly, and growing sort of 20 to 25,000 a day, across the countries, and not seeing that slow down. That growth rate continues to accelerate. Why
do you think that is? Or do you just not want to even think about it? You kind of pull back and say, like, you know what? As long as we don't answer. But I mean,
I guess there's a little bit of superstition about that. But
exactly.
But I've got my lucky socks on today, so I think
nice.
We're okay.
I threw my Vancouver Canucks jersey on the floor. Everything's good.
Yeah, everything's good. The short answer is that we are providing something that people like. Now people can't imagine not having that capability at their fingertips, whether they're at their desk or in their car, where they probably shouldn't be doing it. But certainly having it wherever you are and being able to solve whatever problem you have from a local search perspective, right there, on your mobile phone, that's now become just an accepted thing, where it's an expectation, not this crazy idea.
Mm-hmm.
And when the real key thing is when people find a solution that works, they tell other people. And that's been one of the real secrets to our success. We have a real strong user base, and they tell us when they think we're going down the right path, and they tell us when we're not. We add information, we refine the user interface based off of user comments, and we've just had such a great experience in growing virally that we continue to reinforce that every day.
Do you think that this? How big can this be? I mean, location-based services and certainly the difference. Well, I'm going to scratch that here. Talk about the difference between search and find, right?
Well, yeah, that's a dramatic difference. Search is a process where you're just kind of interested, but there's no real endpoint in mind necessarily, right? You're much more willing to investigate and explore, and that's ideally suited for a laptop or a desktop or even a tablet potentially, depending on what the speed of the connection is. But that's a process of discovery. It's not a process of I need a solution. Find is about solutions. Find is about I have a need. Find is I have a problem. Find is I'm here. What's next to me to solve my hunger, entertainment, sore foot, plumbing, dentist, doctor, whatever that might be. And there's immediacy to it as well. Mm-hmm. That it's not that I need that solution in 6 weeks or in 6 days. I need that solution in 6 minutes. Help me find that solution now. So it's really a very dramatically different thing. And we don't try to be search. We try to be find.
So in the early days, was that always the mantra, or was it always about find, or was it, find, that was prominent through all of your plans?
Absolutely. There was never a time where we thought, okay, well, yeah, we can out Google or, out Yahoo. It was not about that. It was about local search and only local search. It's local information. The movie you want to go see, but it's not just, okay, I want to see a trailer. I want to know where I can go and see the movie and buy a ticket. It's not about the Sony PlayStation. It's about, okay, where can I buy a Sony PlayStation? It's those things that you need in your day-to-day local life, not some esoteric thing that's on the web that I need to spend time to understand. And both are valuable. It's not that search isn't valuable. Search is a different purpose. And so it was always about that local solution.
Do you ever, and that's, it's a great answer but when you look at how Google is kind of moving into they balance across both of them, right? So there's local search is basically find, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's not research. It's about find. And Google. I always go back to something my grandfather said: "Don't try to please everybody all the time." Yeah. It's just painful and a waste of your time and theirs. And browsers are absolutely trying to do that. They're trying to be everything to everybody. Mm-hmm. And the key thing in life, at least I've found, is that there are no silver bullets. It's very hard, very, very hard in one box to solve everybody's problems. I use Google, I use Ask, I use Bing, I use all of those search engines, and they're great when you need to research or discover what's on the web. The content on the web is not always trustworthy or good, but it definitely gives you a way to answer some questions. If you want to find something, if you want a solution, you need to limit what you're trying to achieve and be really the best at that.
So that's where you guys fit in. Since really said January of 2008, you guys launched on the Blackberry platform, is that right?
Yeah, we really started the serious work on the Blackberry platform that Christmas of 07, 08. Yeah. And launched it June of 2008.
2008. And what was the reaction from the BlackBerry community? I think that there's a perception out there that BlackBerry owners are not receptive to applications, or it's corporate world. And
yeah, well, I think the BlackBerry platform has always been a utilitarian platform, right? Like, it's been a platform that works. It's been a platform that you want to communicate, email by way of email. That was really ultimately what it was ultimately designed for. But it's a very capable platform, or at least we always found it to be, to handle applications and data transport. it has limitations just like every other platform. There are choices that they make, in order to emphasize their strengths, and you've got to kind of work within those constraints. The iPhone has some great advantages too, but it also has some disadvantages, as do the Android and Nokia and Samsung platforms. There are things that you can rely upon those devices to do very well, and there are things that you can't rely upon them to do very well. Just like if you need a pickup truck, don't buy a car. Just like if you need a driver, don't use a sand wedge. There are particular tools for particular situations, and the right tools is ultimately the right solution.
Well, I worked very closely with RIM during that period of time, the formative years of RIM, which was, right around when the Curve and the Bold came out. This was their big moments. Certainly, found them great to work with. Very receptive to people and companies who are advancing their technology and helping them advance their technology.
Yes.
When you witnessed the launch of the iPhone, I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and that was kind of a moment for them. Was it the same moment, or were you already in there?
Well, we were already kind of there, I guess, and so we saw, it was more, I don't want to say expected, but it wasn't a surprise, I guess. It was, okay, good, now there's another device. And we were a little bit skeptical of, okay, Apple, great, they do music, they do media, they make great devices, but can they make a great phone? Yeah. And so we were definitely skeptical of that, and from a typing perspective and that capability, it was a little bit of a challenging device. Having said that, media, the smoothness of the UI, the quality of the UI were always very good and remain very good to this day, and that's one of their advantages. And Poynt on the iPhone is a really great experience. As a result, we're real proud of that. But back then it was, okay, well, let's see how this goes. And as they started to gain traction, as the App Store started to gain traction, then we said, okay, that's the next platform. We've got to build for that.
Talk about when you guys were on Blackberry. How many Blackberries do you think you were on back then?
Well, at first year, we went from 0 to 48,000 over the 6 months. Yeah. And really, we got most of those. It's funny, we've sort of seen various stages of critical mass where you start to attract users, and then they tell their network of friends, and you kind of go through these explosive periods. And through the October to December timeframe of that year, with the Blackberry Developer Challenge having got behind us, and we were the grand prize winner, we really then saw some serious accelerated growth. Exited that year at 48,000, and then during 2009 went from 48,000 to, I think it was 1.6 million by the end of that year, and then exited 2010 with 4.6 million users, I believe it was. Or is that right? Yeah, 4.6, and so we've basically doubled since then. It's been
in the first half of this year.
Yeah, it's been dramatic growth all the way along.
I always think about that 48,000. From a software developer standpoint, 48,000 is a big number, right? Like you think, okay, wow, 48,000 people.
Yep.
And then to be over 8 million, it must be. It's staggering. The numbers.
Well, yeah, I think one of our biggest days back then, we had 1,000 downloads in a day, and we thought we died and gone to heaven. It was dramatic, right? And so I think we'd gone from 7,000 in September of 08 to roughly 10,000 over a few days. It was a couple of weeks, and one of those days was 1,000 downloads, and we just just thought it was remarkable. We then had days of 20,000 here recently, and 30,000 and 40,000 and 50,000. While some of the TV ads were running this past February, we had dramatic one-day blips where we equaled the entire year of 2008. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
You ever? You look at those numbers and you think, the perspective changes, right? So in 08, 48,000 was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when you clear 1,000 downloads, it was a great day. Flash forward a couple of years, and you get disappointed with those numbers now. You think, oh man, what are we doing wrong with 15,000 a day?
No, we're number one. We see such high return rates, and we see such high rates of people telling other people, and you look at our reviews on the app stores, and there's just very little that we're disappointed with. I think the only thing that we're introspective about, or maybe very hard on ourselves, is how quickly can we deploy new functionality. We've got lots of ideas here, and it's a case of picking the right ones that users want, and deploying those in a real quick and high quality fashion. Because if it doesn't work, that doesn't help, right?
Well, what do you guys measure? I mean, are downloads as important as repeat users? I mean, what are the core tenets to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so lots of companies focus and fixate on downloads.
Yeah.
They talk about those regularly. For us, it doesn't matter. We've got millions and millions of downloads, but it's users that make the difference. And so somebody can download the app but never use it. We don't count. We only count folks who use the app. So as long as they've downloaded it and used it at least once, we count them as a unique user. And then active users on a monthly basis are very important to us. How many? What's the percentage of the total? How active are they? And we see a third of our user base every month. Sometimes people come in once a quarter. Sometimes they only use it once a month. Sometimes people use it 150 times in a month. On average, we get a query per day per active user. So each and every day we see our active user base, which is great. And that's been growing steadily since we launched. Back in 08, we had kind of 5 queries per active user per month. Now we see 30. So it's become more useful. It's become more critical, more of a day-to-day kind of thing for our user base, and that's really the measure of success. That people use it, they want to use it, and they tell other people to use it, and those are really the things that we look at.
So, I mean, you must have looked at this in 2001 and 2002. There had to be a revenue generating capability in what you were building, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to explain at that point. There's really no capable devices at that point. You're doing like a challenge and response through SMS.
That's an understatement, Rob. It wasn't just hard to explain. It was a lot of waving your arms in the air. And my background, I came out of investment banking for energy companies.
So what are you doing?
Exactly. So it's it was like being on an alien planet. You're dealing with technology folks who, well, if you build it, they'll come, and the revenues will just happen mystically and magically. Oil and gas, you drill a well and you pump it out of the ground, and the only thought you have to have is that you get it into a pipeline.
Yeah.
And you're going to get paid for it,
yeah.
Right? You don't have to market it. You don't have to do any of those things. And so it was very, very important to me that we figure out a revenue line. We needed to make it cool. We needed to make it usable. It had to be about the user, and so the revenue couldn't impede or take away from that experience. But you had to figure out something that was value add, so that you could pay for all of this, right? And advertising was an easy answer because fundamentally local search is advertising. fundamentally local search has always been about advertising. You know, the Yellow Pages had a 120-year model of dropping a book on your front step, and you didn't have to pay for the book. You know, just use the book, and the book will help you solve your problems. Well, you know,
now
today
it holds my doors open.
Well, now, yeah, or you can prop your monitor up on it, right?
Exactly.
And so, you know, fundamentally that was kind of the premise, that you provide this information, but you have to provide it in a way that's usable, that suits the model, but also generates revenues, right? And we're doing that. We try to make the advertising part of the experience. We try to make the advertising part of the context of the search, part of the context of the user's mind share or headspace, however you want to put that.
Do you have an example of something like that?
Well, so, you know, some of the advertising that we've done is exactly on top of that, where you're in an area and you're looking for a hotel. You type in hotel, and we check and say, okay, well, we've got an advertisement from Days Inn. They've got a hotel right down the road. If you click and call through Poynt to this reservation line, you can get 15% off for any 2-night stay or greater. Well, the results from that were over the moon. Instead of a 0.5% engagement rate, we got a 5.5% engagement rate. You know, 10 times really the industry average. And that's not slowed down or changed really in any way, shape, or form. Our advertising generally far outstrips the industry averages, and it's as a result of being in the mind share of what the user is looking for, and delivering ads that make sense for mobile, for your location, or for your context, or for all of the above, right? And that's really the objective, is to make sure that even the advertising is value add.
So do you think that you can continue on a purely advertising model? Is that something that, I mean, certainly local search is naturally suited, as you said. I mean, the Yellow Pages made a living out of it for so long. Do you think that you can continue down that path, or are there other opportunities for revenue?
Well, so one of the mottos is that Poynt is about from inspiration to action, right? So you get an idea and you want to follow it all the way through to the transaction. Movie tickets and restaurant reservations are a perfect example.
Right.
So you decide you want to go see a movie, you pick the movie, you find a theater, and you have the ability right there on the device to buy the ticket. You pop in your credit card, you get your receipt by email, you put it into your calendar, and off you go. You swipe your credit card, print your tickets, and in you go.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing that you can do all of that in 3 or 4 minutes on a mobile device while you're standing on a street corner.
Yep.
Restaurant reservations are the same. You decide on a restaurant, you see that, oh, okay, I can book a reservation there. You book the table for 2, and lo and behold, you've got your table booked, and you're on your way, and you've even emailed the address of the restaurant to the friend that you're meeting for dinner. So it's all about solving that problem from start right to finish. So transactions are going to become more and more important as the devices become more capable. In some ways, payment through a mobile device, we're at the very same place we were back in 06, 07, where the devices were just starting to get capable of that. You can type in and use a credit card or a PayPal account, but you've got to make that whole process easier, and that's starting to come.
So you think that's that piece, right?
It's another layer to solving the problem. It's not just about, okay, well, I found the solution, now I need to get there. It's adding that additional layer of transaction, and adding the layer of finding a really good deal too. Discounts or coupons, or maybe being aware of another retailer that offers the same service but is closer, or
right.
Offers a slightly different variation on the theme. It's all of those things.
Now, I've often thought, especially with the business that Poynt is in, because it is local find.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of expiring inventory, it really is appealing, right? So deals around that when I come back to this often when it's 6:48 p.m.
Yes.
That table is not going to get sat for dinner, so it's better to offer a discount to get somebody in there and get some value. Same thing with a show or a movie or whatever, or a sporting event.
Yeah. Every business has perishable inventory of some description, whether it's the model year expires or the table isn't filled or the Danish goes unsold. Every business fights that inventory turnover problem, right? And they fight it more now today, given the economy, than ever before. And so making sure that you've got really solid utility of your available assets, very, very key. And much like the web in the early 90s, it was a new medium for attracting buyers to your product. Mobile is that effectively on steroids because it's real time. It's on, as the consumer wants to solve the problem, right? Yeah. And so it really can act as a great filter and motivator to get a consumer to your front door.
It's pretty, what I find so amazing about this, Andrew, is that, I was a web guy in the 90s, ran a bunch of companies and started a bunch of companies in the web space. And when e-commerce took off, what you ended up seeing is that, there was that combination of bricks and clicks, and, you had retailers in the real world opening up e-tail shops. And there was not, I don't think that retailers really worried about e-tailers. Until Amazon, in the last 5 years, till Amazon kind of became the Walmart of online. But I don't think that it was as prominent. Like, I don't think anybody ever walked into early 90s, mid 90s, or early 2000, mid 2000 to about 2005. People walked into Chapters or Barnes and Noble and said, or Best Buy or Future Shop and said, "Hey, look, you know what? I just found this, from a competitor over here. What are you going to do about that?" I think that started in 2005 timeframe. It became a very competitive world. But it was usually around brochures. And now, like what we're seeing out there is the blending of this, is that no matter where I am, I have access to all this information that's going to have a massive impact on that retailer's business.
Yes.
Right? We have crossed over. When I'm standing in the middle of Times Square, I may have had a favorite restaurant right next to me, but I have the power at my fingertips now to be able to change that decision, right? I can alter my decision based on what's around me. Whereas before, I would have just gone back to that same restaurant or back to that same e-tailer or retailer.
Yes.
So this is really the beginning of the blending of that the digital world in retail and bricks.
Yeah, it really better melds the electronic and real world, because it's a personal device rather than a desktop that anybody can use in the household. It's real time, as I'm making the decision, rather than I plan ahead, and you print off your MapQuest and take it with you. It's MapQuest. Now I have it on my device, and I can real time change my plans, and the device will adapt around me, right? So it's a closer blending of that electronic and real world, I fundamentally believe that it's for the benefit of both consumers and merchants, right? That you're better informed as the consumer making the decision, and you have more opportunity as the merchant to get in front of the consumer as well, right? So it's a really just a great opportunity for both.
Well, I love it. I mean, who would have thought that I mean, we would have thought, but I mean, the technology enables you to just, read reviews about things that you never would have been able to know about before. Dishes that you would never have chosen, and restaurants that you never would have sat in, and product that you never would have bought. And I know from personal experience, when I'm doing a search on a device and I've found something that's of interest, my decision to buy has been drastically reduced. Right?
Oh yeah.
I walk into that store and I'm buying. Right,
yep.
and it's with
you're a qualified buyer.
Right, it's intent.
You've moved from okay, I think I want this to okay, I'm buying this.
Yeah,
and that's the difference, and it makes a huge difference for the retailer as well. Right?
I agree. Done right, you can't hide anymore, which is the big thing as well. Right, so those people that aren't engaged and don't want to be engaged are fearful because what if somebody tells the truth?
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you look at it and say, well, maybe the truth is something you have to hear so you can improve what you're doing.
Yep.
So
well, I want people don't like hearing the truth most of the time.
No, I don't either. My hair is receding, and it's okay to tell me that. It's fine. Right?
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Okay, well, I'm of the age where I can accept this, right? It's okay because it's just joining on my back, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm just joking. It's a good way to seamlessly transition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Making hair, back hair jokes. But one of the things this has become, in 2002 you were crazy, which is probably the sign of a great idea, right? A visionary idea, or you're crazy, right?
Yeah.
And you'll never know until something hits or misses.
Yes.
So you hit with this. We're 2011. There is competitors. There is competition out there at an unbelievable pace, right? So innovation happened in 2002 with you guys, maybe 2008 with like Foursquare, and then it's been like me too.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the competitors? Like, how is it that it gets very crowded? How are you out competing those guys?
Well, again, I think it's not really about thinking about the competitors so much. It's about thinking about the user. Which we do very well. If you're delivering what the user wants and what they need, and in some cases what they don't know they need, you don't need to worry about the competition. And we've got a very experienced team that have been at this a long time now, and so it's very easy. It's very easy, and we've always been told, well, you're trying to compete with the yellow page companies, and so you're never going to get that deal done. Oh, well, now you're competing with the telcos, and you're never going to get that deal done. And so we just keep hearing, well, that's never going to work, and we always make it work. So I guess maybe ignorance is bliss, but we've just never worried about competitors from that perspective. Yeah. And again, there's no silver bullets in life. We don't expect that we're going to be the only application that provides this service. We certainly want to be the very best, and we're a global leader in it, bar none. And oftentimes we find competitors are trying to just keep up with us. The other thing is that we've got a dramatic suite of intellectual property that provides us with some key barriers that we're starting to leverage to our benefit. And over the long run, I think our leading position, our focus on the user, our intellectual property, and the experience of our team are just going to serve us so well from that perspective.
Well, and I think that's I guess in short, don't focus on the competition. Focus on improving what you're doing, and focus on your business. Yeah. Don't look at them.
Well, the competitors don't pay you; the users do, right? So, if you focus on the competitors, I don't know that you're going to get paid. It's users and their activity that create revenue for us and create activity for us, and so it's our relentless and religious focus on delivering value to that user that's important, because that's who signs the checks ultimately. Right?
Yeah, the competitors don't.
No. for sure.
Which I think that's great advice. I mean, so for the mobile entrepreneurs that are out there, I hear this every once in a while as well. Is that don't focus on what they're doing. Just improve on what you're doing, and let them worry about that.
Yeah, and it's oftentimes hard to do that because seemingly the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, right? And so you really have to make sure that you are looking at your product from the perspective of the person paying for it, right? And ultimately that's the only way to win, is that if that product serves that user very well, they're going to come back time and time again.
So, I mean, we touched on a little bit about where you think this is, what impact you think this is going to have. What do you think is going to? Are there three things that you look at that you think, boy, either mobile or the space that we're in, it's going to change something so dramatically? I mean, what do you think is going to change forever as a result of what you're doing or this mobile industry? Because, I mean, we're just at the start of this, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. I think the last 3 or 4 years has just been prologue to the real story. We might be in chapter 1. I think the key thing is there's 7 billion cell phone accounts in the world, and that isn't to say that everybody has one. That's to say that there's lots of people with 2 or 3 accounts, and so ultimately I think we're going to see several more billion accounts in the world. The smartphone is going to be the device of choice, not just a basic handset, and that's both of those statements are fairly obvious. I think the key thing is that this industry, these devices are going to be the computing solution, communication solution, personal solution for everybody on the planet at a point in time. And the limitations of those devices are really only dictated by the things that people want to do and the capability of the connections. The key bottlenecks aren't the processor speed on the device. It's not how many pixels can you jam into a screen. It's how robust and rigorous is that connection that you can get at what you need and what you want, when and where you want it. And ultimately that's going to be the impediment, I think, to a lot of the new things and services and whatnot. The devices are just getting dramatically capable. If you compare the capabilities of a smartphone today versus some of the computers that I grew up with, it makes those things look like toasters. So it's very hard to say what ultimately will win here as a trend, but I think the overriding framework is that these devices are going to get smarter, they're going to get faster, they're going to become more capable. Whether they get bigger or smaller doesn't really matter. It's that they are a personal device, and ultimately that's what's going to drive this, is personal use, be it business or recreation or just living life, right?
So do you think that the impediments to that growth, or the impediments, maybe it's not an impediment, but the things that are going to harm this or slow this down are bandwidth availability, carrier caps?
I'm not sure it's going to harm it. I think it just dictates the pace.
Okay.
I think network congestion and speed are the two things that slow it down most. Everything else is just noise. It really comes down to, what can I access, and can I access it on my mobile device when I want to. And so I don't think it harms it. I just think it slows it down a bit, because we really haven't even fully paid for 3G technology, and we've got 4G now. Yeah. So how quickly can you innovate and pay for it, right? Like that's the that's the piece of the puzzle that hasn't been determined yet.
Well, I hope they figure it out, because when I get that little text message that says I'm at 75 or 80% of my cap with Rogers,
yes,
I know it alters my the way I use the device, and it alters the way that I use my my bandwidth as well. So hopefully that they resolve that before the average user hits those caps as well.
Yes,
then it would be difficult.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, look, you know what? I've monopolized more time than I said I would, and I know you probably got a bunch of things to do and run, but I just want to thank you.
Yeah, I do have a day job.
Exactly. It's nice. It's raining there. You're not going out to golf, so that's good.
Yes.
Listen, I really appreciate you coming on. Where can people find out more information about you?
Best place to go is website poynt.com, and you can find out about the product.
It's available on every platform, right?
We're available on all the major smartphone platforms, and we'll be rolling out a version for basic handsets when we launch in India here in a few weeks.
That's great. Basic handsets as well. I mean,
yeah.
Taking a cue from Facebook there with the feature phone release. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's at least 50% of the market, right? You can't forget those guys.
Well, yeah, it's an important piece of the puzzle. And
not back to the SMS back and forth, eh? Like
no.
Early days?
No.
This is featured. Well, listen, I really appreciate it, Andrew. I've been speaking with Andrew Osis, who's the co-founder and CEO of Poynt, Calgary, Alberta, Canada company. You can go to Poynt, Poynt.com. Any of the app stores, any of the marketplaces, anywhere you can find an app, go and find it for Blackberry, Nokia, Windows Phone 7, iPhone devices, and Android, of course. And that's it. Andrew, thank you for your time. I appreciate you being on the show. Those folks who are still watching or listening, I know you're out there. Love the fact that you do this every day and with every episode. If you have any feedback, reach out to untether@gmail.com. That's where you can find me. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Untether.tv. Thanks very much.